Hi there, everybody. So today I'm going to tell you why the Model S is the perfect car for the soccer dad, which I happen to be a soccer dad. And generally it comes down to a number of accessories you might want to get to equip your car, and then there's a few steps you might want to take before you start hauling around athletes. So my daughter is starting cross country or track this year, and those practices have already started, and we have a carpool for that. And the soccer team will be starting very, very soon. And we'll be doing a carpool for that. You've probably seen pictures on Twitter or Instagram that I've posted of me basically waiting in various places to pick her up from various athletic events. My son's not the athlete, that's okay. He has his own events. But today we're going to talk about the type of things you might want to have or do to your Model S to make it ideal for these sporting related adventures. First of all, understand that the Model S, it's a 5-passenger vehicle. You can't really use the rumble seats, jump seats for most of your athletic stuff, because by the time your kids are really getting involved in sports, they're really too big to sit in those far back seats. I don't have them on my car. My kids were already too big when we ordered the car, and they're an expensive add-on. But if you have them, it's not really going to work in that scenario, and I'm going to tell you why you don't want to use them anyway. So first thing you can do to prep the car is obviously you want to get all-weather floor mats. Doesn't matter how nice the weather is outside. We're still winter here, but spring is supposedly on the way. You're going to end up with mud. You're going to end up with grass, because they always cut those fields and they get covered in grass clippings. And my daughter seems to have a certain affinity for getting as muddy as she possibly can, especially when she plays goalie for her soccer team. I swear she dives for the ball for the sole purpose of seeing whether or not she can become single-handedly a Tide commercial model. But all of that stuff is going to end up in your car. Now, Tesla does make all-weather mats, which is what I have. They're rubber mats. They fit reasonably okay. But it's been almost 4 years since I got this car, and there are a number of competitors that have come out with other mat designs. What I will tell you is in the front seats, the Tesla mats don't seem to go very far toward the rear. So toward the front of the seat, the seat edge, like right in front of or right under your knees, basically, there's definitely a gap there where you see carpet. This is an issue when you're doing the carpools, because if you carpooling like we are, you got 4 athletes in here, and one of them sitting in the front passenger seat, and you're getting crud all over the carpet. In fact, when I look down right now, I can see the carpet in front of the passenger seat. That's how short the mat is. Again, that's the Tesla all-weather mats. I do not believe they have changed them significantly. I know they have changed them slightly. So I would look into aftermarket option mats that may come up farther. And there is a brand out there, and I can't remember what it's called, but if you look for it, I'm sure you'll find it. Same thing with the second row mat. The Tesla mat doesn't really have great coverage, and the sidewalls of it tend to get kind of stomped down. So on mine, they're sort of like curling over toward the middle of the car and away from their edges. And it just doesn't look great. So it still traps the mud and stuff, but it allows a path for mud and dirt and debris to get behind the mat, and now you have that stuff riding between the mat and the carpet and getting ground in. Well, that's not an improvement, which is kind of the whole point of the mats. So again, I would say there are probably aftermarket mats that are better than Tesla's mats. I would seek those out. Another common thing people notice is I have seat covers on the front seats of this car. I highly recommend the seat covers. Not just for the ability to clean them off, but also because you have these kids kind of piling in, and they're throwing their backpacks on to the seat sometimes, and just generally not being super careful with things as it goes. And having the seat covers, at least on the front seat, is a big help in making that easier to clean up. I know you can wipe off leather seats. I got the leather seats for the purpose of keeping them clean and that they would last a long time. But I got to tell you, the seat covers clean very easily as well, and they have the added benefit of not getting too hot and not getting too cold. They're kind of always like a normal temperature, much like cloth seats in any other car. And the seat heater still works through it very well. Now, you can find an in-depth review about the seat covers elsewhere on my YouTube channel when I first got them, and then I posted an update a couple months ago, I think, that showed what they look like after 3 years of use, and basically how to clean them, how easy it is. Now, you may notice if you look in the back seat, there is no seat cover on the back seat. I actually have one. It was given to me or sent to me, I should say, with the purpose of testing it, but I was never able to successfully mount, to my satisfaction, the portion that went on the lower seat cushion. And to do that, you had to pop the seat the cushion off the frame, which is immensely difficult. And then you're supposed to strap it in, so it wouldn't really be something you could take on or off. These I can take on or off either of the front seats in probably a couple minutes. I can put them on in probably 5 minutes. It takes a little bit longer to get them on because you have to kind of stretch them into place. The one for the lower seat cushion was kind of a do it once and you will never ever want to touch it again, because popping that rear seat cushion off requires a lot of force and is just kind of generally difficult. But the problem I had with it was that you could not get the seat belt to easily buckle. Because of the way the rear seat buckles are in the Tesla, they're mounted on that angle, and the cover that's designed for that has a cutout for it, but the buckles are very, very tight, meaning that the clasp portion of it is very tight to the buckle, and Tesla doesn't give you a lot of room. I mean, the buckles don't really protrude from that slanted area. So by the time you added in the cover, you were bumping that space up a little bit, and now you couldn't, it was kind of in the way. So last year I ran just the seat back cover, thinking maybe that would help get some of the sweat and stuff off the seats, and it probably did, but it's really the lower cushion that you would want. And I'm going to go back and revisit that and see if there's some way I can mount it that will still make it easy to be buckled. Because if the kids can't buckle it easily, that's not a win. I'm not trying to slow down the whole driving home kind of thing. So those are some considerations you want to be looking into. Other thing to consider, and I will show you this when I park the car, is getting some rear seat cup holders. I built my own console for the back seat that will hold those big water bottles. They're a little tight fit up here, but it'll work. And so I put some back there so that they'd have a place to stick their water bottles rather than just have them on their backpacks, because usually at least my daughter goes with 2 bottles, one on the backpack and then one in her hand. And you want to have a place for that to go so it's not rolling around, dropping water all through the inside of the car. You don't want to be baptizing your floor every time you take these athletes around. So that's a consideration, is to get that. All right, so I'm in the driveway now, and I thought I'd show you this console that I built just to kind of wrap that up. These are cup holders that are intended for things like boats and poker tables, and it's just made out of scrap wood, really, that I happen to have laying around. And I wrapped it in this marine vinyl, which is the same stuff that I used to make the cover for my Subaru's truck bed. And then there's like a fake Alcantara sort of lining in here, which of course is full of crumbs and debris. And the whole thing just pulls out. It just lifts right out, and it's held in by compressing this piece of foam that's tucked up underneath here. That foam is normally about that thick, but it's probably about that thick where it meets the console. So it's not damaging the console. It's padded in the back, so it won't damage the underside of the seat. But I mean, it's stable. Like it doesn't really want to come out. I guess I could slide it very slightly if I hit it hard enough. But generally speaking, that'll hold your water bottles and other accoutrements. We often have a box of Kleenex sitting there, and that's it. That's my little console that I made. It's really not very complicated. Really cost almost nothing to make, so it's a lot cheaper than what Tesla's offering, quite frankly. And that's something to look into if you're going to be carrying a lot of people. Likewise, I would recommend when you're doing their soccer carpools, take out that parcel shelf. It's just going to be in the way. Invariably, somebody's going to flip it around and possibly damage it, or at the very least, they may leave it up, and so then you get to look at it in the rearview mirror, kind of flapping along behind you in your peripheral vision. And I don't know. I just think it's easier to not have it in there. Now, when I'm just carrying my daughter plus 1 or 2 other people, I usually leave it in. But when you start getting up to carrying 4 people, so you're filling the car, there's no place for those big backpacks to go, so they all go in the trunk. Little tip though, I always tell the girls, don't worry about closing the trunk. I'll get it here because it's just easier, because they are, well, now they're getting a little taller, but they used to be too short to actually hit the button. So you can actually close the tailgate using the control panel in the front here while the car is moving. So as you're pulling away, you can hit that button and have it go down. I wouldn't do any launching while you had that in motion, but you can do it when you're in like neighborhoods, backing out of driveways, things like that. So I do not use the frunk for any of their sports-related backpacks, because I don't really want kids kind of messing around with pushing that down and whatnot. So I keep that really just for our use. And what I found is, at least with this car, it has the larger frunk in it because it's a 2014 rear-wheel drive, is that I can easily pile all of our lawn chairs that we use when we sit at the soccer games or the track meet or whatever it happens to be, they all fit in the frunk perfectly. So at the beginning of the season, I will put those in there along with some stadium seats, because at least around here, sometimes you end up playing in a high school stadium where they have those hard bleachers. So you can't use a lawn chair, but you do want a pad. And I will put all that stuff in the frunk of the car, and I will leave it in there until winter. It will just ride around with us. Well, I guess I take it out for part of the summer, unless we're doing summer soccer, but it'll just ride around most of the time, and I'll just forget it's up there. And it's really handy because it's not taking up any of your trunk space, but yet you always have it with you. So you don't have to be like, did we remember to get the chairs? No, the chairs are always with the car. No big deal. One problem with that, I will point out, is if your car does go in for service or anything like that, and you get a loaner, when you open the frunk on the loaner, no lawn chairs up there. And I've done that a couple times. I've forgotten to retrieve my stuff, and then when I have a loaner, there's nothing up there. So we also have a blanket up there for some of the cooler games in the beginning of the season. So we have a couple flannel blankets up there, fleece blankets. All that stuff rides around in the front. And that's really all you need. I mean, the Model S is a great team hauler in that regard. You can use all of the space in it really easily. I do sometimes get a little nervous with the way the athletes will slam the doors, because they're aluminum, they're kind of light, and they'll slam them like they're, the old country Esquire station wagon or something. I'm like, hey, lay off on my doors. And they will yank on the back doors to pull them open in one big motion. And I usually tell them, yeah, give it like a half tug. Then you hear the lock release and pull it the rest of the way, except trying to minimize the wear and tear on the door handles. But generally speaking, they're okay with that. And that's a small thing. You say it once, and then you're good for the rest of the carpool. Other considerations is when you're at the game, of course, you have a heated and air-conditioned space here that is great when it's raining out or cold. And I like to have the roof open when we do that. I like to park with the roof open when we're at those kind of places, so it keeps the car kind of cooled down. On really hot days, of course, we'll seal it up, and then right before the end of the game, we'll pop on the air conditioning, and we're the only family on the team that gets into an air-conditioned car, which feels amazing on a hot day. And of course, you can do that with the app on your phone. So that is such a, you cannot imagine. I swear that's what it was designed for, but I can't prove it. And of course, you can do that with the heater too. So anyway, that's some of the reasons why this is. Oh, and of course, it gets like the fact that they can basically name any song and pull it up. Oh, that's my last tip. When the soccer carpool is a bunch of teenage girls and they start pulling up songs on Slacker, watch that nobody hits that like button, the thumbs up button, or you'll be by yourself and you'll be getting all this like teeny bopper, Taylor Swift, whatever they're into these days, coming up, and it's like, that song again. Like, there's a lot of, So I do have to make sure that they keep their hands off the screen once they've requested the songs. Other than that, this is a superb car for those tasks, and of course, super smooth, and I love driving it. And that's why this is the perfect soccer dad car, because it just carries so much. All right, well, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Clicking that button would really help me a lot to get some of the benefits that YouTube offers. So please click the subscribe button if you're at all interested in any of the things I've ever had to say to you. And I hope you will watch the next video and go back through the archives and find those seat covers if you're interested. They're a really great deal, and I highly recommend them, except for the back seat. Oh well. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.